All right, well, should we get it started then?
Sure. Yeah, we have a lot of Skol Scales to do, so we can save like a decent amount of time for that.
All right, here we go. Hey, welcome back to the Unbelievable Podcast. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald. And today, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that the Twins are in the postseason, and they are starting up against the Yankees pretty soon here. The bad news is that the Vikings just completely shit the bed against the Chicago Bears, and all hell is breaking loose. So we've got plenty to talk about on both ends. So we'll split the show, hopefully about half and half, maybe a little bit more football. We'll see how the ranting goes with this. And then we'll have the Skol Scale in the middle there to gauge whatever optimism is left in Vikings territory. So that's the game plan for today. Let's just get it started then. Starting with that 16-6 loss the Vikings took at Soldier Field, Drew. What observations do you have that you want to share with me?
I mean, I have a lot. I don't really know where to start. I think
you want to talk about the elephant in the room?
The $84 million elephant in the room?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you may as well just talk about it. Tell me about Kirk Cousins.
Okay, I kind of want to start this by backtracking. So, whatever has happened since he was signed in, was it March or April of 2018? Whatever has happened, I will still be of the opinion that it was the right move to sign Kirk Cousins, given the options available. It always was the right move. They either would have, their options were, Teddy off of, the questionable knee injury and his recovery and whatnot. There was Case Keenum after, we know about his volatility with the Vikings and the good and the bad, and it just didn't seem like it was gonna work and for him to be a franchise quarterback.
And it hasn't.
And it hasn't. If you look at his success the last couple of years, he just got benched after a shaky start of 2019, we'll say. And then Alex Smith was an option. Maybe, I guess. I don't think he was better than Kirk Cousins at the time as a free agent. And then your other option would have been to sign a rookie. Or, not sign a rookie, but draft a rookie and have him be your starting quarterback in the first round of 2018 draft. A lot of people talked about Lamar Jackson. It could have been another option. But basically, given those options, Kirk Cousins was always the best chance to keep this team in contention. So I will never fault the Vikings for making that decision. It was the right decision. And based on where the Vikings were with their roster, having just played the NFC Championship game, you wanted to keep the team competitive, keep the fan interest peaked. That was the move to make. With that said, that move has completely flopped. And every wrong,
Nice.
every bad, thought, notion, stereotype of Kirk Cousins' game has come to fruition since he has been a Minnesota Viking. The performance on the road, the performance against bad teams, the performance in big games, it's all coming true every single time the situation comes up. And this is just another example. And so you combine that with the Vikings' lack of success at Soldier Field for really as long as I've been able to watch football and understand the game. It just the game against the Bears was exactly what I expected. And I don't know why any Vikings fan would have expected anything different.
So that's so I was watching the game, as many do, with a couple of my friends, and so game starts, right. Trubisky gets first of all, we got the coin. We won the coin toss, so we're kicking off. So I felt really good about that. Just for whatever reason, that made me feel really good.
Winning the coin toss,
yeah. It's
a small thing sometimes.
I always feel better when we're getting the ball at the half for whatever reason. That's irrelevant. And then Trubisky gets knocked out in the fifth defensive play, basically, really early in the game, right?
That sucked, by the way, because Chase Daniel's better than Trubisky. But
yeah, and that's kind of so he gets knocked out, and my initial thought was okay, I don't really think this matters that much because there's not much is going to hinge on this game. And then Chase Daniel comes in. I will not accept getting shredded by Chase Daniel, which is exactly what happened. I know they only allowed 16 points.
They didn't get shredded by him.
He waltzed down the field
on the first drive. On the first drive, he shredded them.
Right.
Okay, fair
Absolutely
enough. First drive,
which was terrible. You can absolutely – that has to be a 3-and-out scenario the second Mitchell Trubisky goes off the field. So that's my first problem. And that really is where it ends with the defense for what it's worth. But so that happens. And then so I'm thinking to myself, okay, we got Chase Daniel out there. Defense looks like it's, 7 points, whatever. We get to the next possession. And this is when the Vikings have the ball. From the very first possession, I knew we were screwed. Just watching Kirk facilitate that game and Dalvin Cook running into a wall. It's so funny because literally what Adam Thielen said after the game, or whenever that interview was, like that was what pretty much all of us were thinking. Like we were waiting for this game to happen where the Vikings weren't able to run 5 yards per carry anymore, and they'd have to be able to throw. And this is what we've been talking about for the last couple of podcasts, saying, okay, when is the redemption game for Kirk? It's Chicago. He gets the opportunity to show that he can throw the football downfield and that the game in Green Bay was just not necessarily a fluke, but just an off day. Okay, this is Kirk Cousins now. We know, like, this is who he is. Like, this is the guy that we're paying. Well, we're not paying, thank God. This is this is who the Vikings are paying. We're stuck with it. It's happening. This is who it's going to be. Because this is it's on script. Like, I wasn't mad after yesterday. I logged on to Twitter yesterday after the game to see the meltdown. I love seeing the Vikings Twitter meltdown.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
It's one of my favorite things. And I'm flipping through it and I'm reading through it and like I'm disappointed as a Vikings fan. They dropped it 2-2. The Vikings played very poorly. There's a lot of question marks about is this a postseason team? All those things are going through my head. But I wasn't mad because I got exactly what I expected.
Yeah, it's exactly what any Vikings fan should have expected.
And
it's the perfect combination.
It's literally, this is the exact game that I thought we were going to get. It was going to be Kirk Cousins against himself, trying not to fumble with Khalil Mack. Like, could you not have called that fumble from
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone knew that fumble was coming. It was going to be Kirk Cousins against himself, basically. And instead of Trubisky, we got Daniel, which is worse because he did probably better than Trubisky might.
Yeah, he did. Straight up, he did. Because Trubisky definitely would have forced a couple more things that could have caused either a turnover or a key mistake here or there.
Or he would have been more loose with the football, period.
Yeah.
We would have probably had a better chance just because if the Vikings were going to score yesterday, I mean, they got the late one. I don't really count that.
That's what I got to hoping, though. Like, in the entire second half, I'm like, all right, our chance here is to get a defensive touchdown. That's the only thought I was thinking.
Right.
They're not going to score on offense.
It was
no way.
Sherrills, for the group of people that I was watching this game with, we were cheering for Sherrills and defensive touchdown. Because as soon as Kirk fumbled to start the second half, it was like hope was gone. Like, it was all about, like... And, like, I just don't get how, like... I don't get how he continues to allow that to happen where we can literally say, okay, we knew he was going to turn the ball over at the wrong time. It happened. Like, literally the only chance for the Vikings to regain momentum in that game, right? The only chance was when they were going into halftime. They were down 10-0, and they get the football to start the half, which leads back to my point why I like having the coin toss go that way. That's the only chance. Kirk steps onto the field. We have good field position. Everyone's, re-energized, did whatever they had to do during halftime to figure out, the script in the second half, figure out what adjustments we need to make, do all the little things that, they can to try to generate more offense. And literally, he could not have taken that away from us sooner. Like, it's the second he got on the field, you couldn't get up and get a beer and come back to your couch without that fumble happening in the second half. Like, he literally just pissed all of it away with that simple fumble. And you knew it was going to happen at some point. And there's nothing we could do to stop it. And by we, I mean the Vikings. Like, there's nothing the Vikings could have done to prohibit any of the things that unfolded yesterday. This is the roster they have. This is the quarterback they have. The quarterback does not do well under pressure. And he's terrible at holding onto the football. He is so bad at holding onto the football. So bad. And it literally, and I wasn't, he fumbled the ball, and so I'm sitting next to my buddy, and, he was just he said something like, oh, damn it, or something like that. But I looked at him, and I was like, we knew that was going to happen. And, that's just what
we
it
get
was.
flashes, though. We get flashes of Kirk being good.
But it's always against bad teams. Always.
I know, but
When was
the
the
throw
last
to
flash?
Diggs for 40 yards. Like, that was a really good throw.
Okay.
There was pressure on him.
But then he misses.
launched it.
Then he misses the one to Adam Thielen. That would have literally that would if that ball. Like looking back now, I believe the Vikings were down either 10-0 or 7-0 when that ball goes up in the air. If Thielen catches that ball, the Vikings at the very least get a field goal there, and we're in exponentially better position than we would have been had he not. He missed them by like a foot.
Okay,
that's the worst part about Kirk Cousins is that he kind of embodies the Vikings in the sense that he's always really close, but he never quite gets you there.
Speaking of, now this is off topic, but Everson Griffin he was so close on every pass rush snap yesterday to getting a sack. Every single one, he was a millisecond away. But anyway, there's a lot wrong with Kirk Cousins' game and a lot of frustration boiling, so I'm going to point to one thing that I dislike the most, and it's his conservativeness that I didn't think he had prior to this season or even maybe the last 2 seasons in Minnesota, where I thought he was much more willing in Washington to throw deep.
Right.
And the weird part is that Thielen and Diggs are better than any receiver he had in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly. Like, by far.
Certainly.
So, to me, when either one of those guys are one-on-one, doesn't matter who's guarding them or who, if it's one-on-one coverage, throw it up. Give them a chance. Throw it in their vicinity somewhere. They'll probably catch it. They might get a PI. And if you get picked off, I'm going to live with that because it's better than throwing it to C.J. Ham for 3 yards.
Right. I think, okay, so one of the things that I don't like is when fans, it's even worse when media does it. They don't really do it, but it's mainly fans when they try to analyze the psyche of a human being that they know from watching TV, right? So you see a lot of people saying I don't think Kirk has the mental fortitude or he's not showing he's showing signs of this type of mental state or. I think it's a bunch of baloney to try to analyze someone's mental state without knowing them.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Okay. With that said, he clearly gets shook. And I think something is. I'm not going to say what has changed in his personality. I'm not going to judge his mental toughness or anything of that nature. But I do think that. The turnovers, the fact that he has turned the ball over consistently, and it's being highlighted by everyone, is changing how he plays football. Because I think he's scared. I think he's playing scared now. So you take
he's playing not to lose, but the problem is the Vikings get behind in games already. So that just it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No, he's I would give me gunslinger Kurt, who throws the ball. And is intercepted every now and then conservative Kirk, who holds on to the ball too long and then fumbles in the pocket all day long. At least give me a chance.
Because that was what we liked about Case Keenum in 2017.
Just give us a chance.
He gave Thielen a chance down the field. He gave Diggs a chance down the field.
Right.
And not all the throws were great decisions. I mean, they were not always the right throw. A lot of across the body stuff. It was by all means, none of it was perfect. But we didn't ask
him to be perfect. When he was our quarterback, first of all, it was a much different situation because we always thought that there was going to be a different end, right? We always thought it was going to be Teddy eventually, and then eventually it was Keenum, and it was a different situation. But ultimately, the fan base was satisfied with the guy who was willing to take risks when they are appropriate. When they are appropriate, I think that's very important here because everyone gets pissed off when Kirk takes a risk and it's not the timing is not appropriate to take a risk. But we were cool with just throw give the receivers a chance instead of checking down.
I'm okay with him missing a throw to Thielen 50 yards down the field. I'm okay with that. That's better than that to me. I will take that more than a 3
as long as he throws it.
That's better to me than a 3-yard completion to Ham from moving forward. There's much more potential value in that throw than the dump off to C.J. Ham. Right. For as great as a player as C.J. Ham is, don't get me wrong. I just don't like him as a receiver as much as Adam Thielen or Stefan Diggs.
I don't think anyone on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah. So defensively, the Vikings were great, I thought, besides that first drive. Contained everything. Didn't give up a whole lot besides underneath stuff. And they obviously just held them to. I mean, essentially, it was 13 points because the Bears got a free 3 points from that Kirk fumble.
Right.
So and I don't know if it's about. I don't know if it's about Mike Zimmer and how he leads teams or leads his team on the road against good teams, or if it's just a collection of, a collective mental state for this team on the road against good. I don't know what it is, but they consistently do not show up against good teams on the road. Ever. It's never good. And I don't know what.
I mean, the common
is,
theme here is that the offensive line sucks and that the quarterback isn't good.
That's
I'm
true
just saying,
like that.
Like I'm just pointing out the common denominator here is that it's a lot harder for offensive linemen to play on the road because of their signals. They can't communicate at all because of. And
but
that
it's
type
like
of thing.
What do they say about Vegas giving when they do the spreads, it's like a 3-point difference for home and away or something like that.
Is that
but it feels like it should be like 25 for the Vikings.
Because it's because of the way they play. Like when they're on the road, it's impossible to communicate, and the quarterback needs to be able to communicate. Like this Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins, needs to be able to communicate. So I think he has a problem, right? I think that's problem A on the road. And it's swept under the rug because it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I think it's probably a bigger deal because of this situation that the Vikings offensive line and Kirk Cousins currently have.
It's a good theory.
So that's point A. Point B is, I think, what you said, that they're kind of that because of where they've been historically on the road, that they probably have some sort of like the same type of thing.
Like, do they psych themselves out maybe for road games? Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Maybe they over prepare, or they do something something is off when they're playing on the road. Period.
I want to know how much different they prepare versus like for road games and home games. I don't know if there's a difference. If there's not, I don't know.
I don't know. They just need to find out. They need to figure out how to juice themselves up the same way for road games as they do for home games. Like, it sounds simple, I guess. But
this says the Vikings playing environment at US Bank Stadium has to be the best in the league because
they certainly make it look like that.
They're a completely different team.
It's
at home.
Yeah. So anyway, other than Kirk's performance, you also get the first bad game out of Dalvin Cook, which is why the offense did nothing yesterday. It comes down to those two guys right there. Cook obviously couldn't get going, and Cousins, if he can't throw it when Cook's not going, the offense isn't going anywhere. Period. That's just how it's going to be forever. It doesn't. You can interchange the parts. If the running back can't get going and the quarterback isn't able to throw when he's not able to get going, you're screwed. That's any team, anywhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't help that the Vikings' philosophy is a run-first team, but nevertheless, if the running back can't run and the quarterback can't throw in the face of the running back not being able to run, you're not going to win many games, right? That's simple enough.
And it's tough for me to, place all the blame on Dalvin because I didn't go back and watch all 22 or I'll watch the game again. I don't know.
But it's not to place blame on Dalvin. It's to say that
just stating that the running game didn't work,
right?
And we knew that was going to happen eventually,
right? And this is
this is 2019 in the NFL. Teams just don't run the ball the way the Vikings did the first 3 weeks. It just doesn't happen every game. With Adrian Peterson in 2012, it didn't happen every game.
This isn't necessarily Dalvin's fault. I'm simply stating that the running game didn't work for the first time all year. Period. That happened. Okay, so the Vikings got hit in the mouth because the way they like to play football didn't work. Okay, so then they tried to do some variation of that, basically, where you see them start throwing out some screens and short passes, try to make some yards after catch on short completions, try to get their playmakers involved by instead of handing the ball, just some sort of short flip to them. That also did not work. Okay, at that point in time, like if you are only down, like the Vikings for the majority of this game were well within striking distance. For like 75% of this game, they were in striking distance. So just start taking shots at that point. Like if you're not running the ball effectively, and you're not able to get it into either Cook, Diggs, or Thielen's hands. I think they even tried to screen with Rudolph at one point, which was absurd, by the way. My point being here is like if the underneath stuff like isn't working, like you got to figure out a way to start throwing a little bit deeper. So that part is on the play caller.
Well,
I don't know what the answer to that question is.
Receivers. There's two top 15 receivers on your team. Use them. Let them make that play. That's.
Well, yes.
Like I said earlier, that's my biggest gripe with Kirk in his game right now.
So
he's not even thinking about launching one deep.
But it's not just Kirk though, too. Like this is the inability to throw the ball is on Kirk because he didn't throw it. But the play callers, Stefanski, Kubiak, everyone involved with that operation, they also deserve.
Drill it into Kirk's head. I don't know, maybe they're not doing this, but Thielen and Diggs, for the most part, and Thielen said this yesterday, and I believe him after the game that they asked him like if he was having a problem getting open or something. He's like, no, I was open. Straight up, I'm sure Diggs was too because we know how good a route runner he is.
Right.
If they're one-on-one, throw them the ball. It's that simple.
Right. Okay. So this is kind of like this entire this game, the way the offense played, in my opinion, is rock bottom. Okay. So I don't think the Vikings offense can play worse than they just did. Like period. I don't think it gets worse in that situation where you get a combination of you can't get Dalvin Cook going, Kirk can't throw the ball efficiently, and he's turning the ball over. That is the ultimate recipe for disaster. So this to me is rock bottom, worst case scenario. This is the worst Vikings that we're going to see all year. Now, they can easily still climb out of this. We just played a quarter of football, okay? It's 4 out of 16 games is what I mean by that. And they're 2-2. And the only two losses they have are on the road against Green Bay and against the Chicago Bears, which are two games that, in theory, when you put out the schedule, Vikings are supposed to lose those games. So they've won the two games that they were supposed to win, and I mean you can make an argument on the first game with the Falcons that they were supposed to win that, but they're playing at home, so I'll say they're supposed to win that one. And they've lost these two games on the road to their division opponents, so they still have a chance to go 4-2 in the division. If they need to win. I think they need to.
I think they need to.
But my point being here is that they can. I don't know if they can fix this, but they have enough opportunity to leave room for this team to get better because that was literally the worst it's going to possibly be. So you think that they should be able to dig their way out of whatever yesterday was and be able to figure out something. I don't care what it is, and quite frankly, I don't have the answer to it. But it's not going to ever be, not ever. I don't want to put that on the Vikings because I've seen some of the quarterbacks they've put out there in the past. But with Kirk Cousins, that's as bad as it's going to get. So I don't have the answer as of today. But like that's as bad of a game as you're going to see. It's not going to get that. Like they're a better team than yesterday.
All right. One question for you before I have a game ball to hand out. I don't know if you do.
I was thinking we should do something the opposite for losses.
Okay, that's fine too.
So we got to
do that. But I have a question for you first. Is Sunday at the New York Giants a must-win game?
No, because I don't believe in must-win games.
It's a must-win game. It is a must-win game.
If they don't win it, I'm going to be very upset. But I'm saying I will never. I'm not going to say it's a must-win game. We're 5 games in.
It's going to confirm my theory that they will not win a road game this year. If you don't beat the Giants on the road, you're not winning any road games this year because their road slate's like kind of difficult.
Right.
Like that's the easiest game they have on the road the rest of the season. You have, Lions, you have Chiefs, Chargers, Seahawks, Cowboys. Like you have it's a tough.
No, they're screwed for sure on the road. They do not have a great. Yeah, the road slate sucks.
And you can't make playoffs losing 8 road games.
That's true. They're gonna have to find a way to win a couple, and
and if you can't beat the Giants, you're not winning any of them. So,
but no, I don't consider it a must-win game. I'll say this. I think it's a must-win game for the minds of Vikings fans.
It's a must-play well game for Kirk and the offense for sure.
Well, no, it's not because there's nothing we can do. Like this is
what do you mean? What's nothing we can do? Obviously, there's nothing we can do.
So, I was talking to my buddy I was talking to one of my buddies after the game, and I was saying, okay, so this is who Kirk is. And he's advocating like there needs to be some sort of switch. Like Kirk is just not going to get it done. Hard to blame him, right?
Well, there's no other option.
That's the answer. There is no other option. Your option, because you got rid of Kyle Sloter, is Sean Mannion.
Sloter. Why are we talking about Sloter still? Why?
Is Sean Mannion and then draft a QB next year. So
they need to do that already. I mean, they need to draft the quarterback in the first 2 rounds.
But those are your options right now. Like you could trade for Case Keenum, which I'm not even going to entertain because I think it's so ridiculous. But
I jokingly tweeted about that this morning, and I had to then clarify that I was using it was sarcasm because people believed it. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean it's a rough place to be, but I think that the only reason the glimmer of hope tells me that they only lost 16-6 on the road in the worst possible place they could play, with the worst possible performance from their quarterback, and their running back didn't play well. Like every bad possible thing that could happen on offense happened, and it was only 16-6.
Okay. That's okay. All right. So what's this opposite game ball thing you want to do?
Well, we got to come up with a creative name for it at some point, but
for now, it's opposite game ball.
Yeah. Okay. So the guy who is the most to blame for the loss, or who?
Well, this is an easy one.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to talk about this too much. We just spent how many minutes talking about it?
20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, you have an actual game. You have an actual game ball, like there's a performance that you were proud of.
Everson Griffin. Yeah.
Well,
he was a beast.
The defense as a whole was not.
He didn't get a sack, but he was he was so close. I was watching on every snap because of how close he was every time. The spin move was working. He was there. It was just a matter. He got a bunch of pressures. It was just a matter of Chase Daniel holding onto the ball for a split second longer. He would have had a sack, maybe a turnover. But so he's been a beast this year, straight up beast.
Yeah. The entire defensive line was very good yesterday.
Yeah. So I do like the way he played, especially Everson Griffin, Hunter as well. But Griffin has been, a monster after kind of a slumpy 2018 year.
Yep. Anthony Barr had a bit of a rough game yesterday too.
Yeah. Well, when he's put on the island with Tariq Cohen in
good
single coverage, that's just not going to work. So it's kind of like the whole Cooper Kupp thing last year against the Rams.
Yeah, it's just not a great situation for him. So, yeah, I mean, I don't. My game ball would be pick someone. I would go with Danielle Hunter, I guess. Hunter was the one that I noticed the most on defense. Colquitt was he was good. Yeah, hell, he gets my game ball. Yeah, because that's he changed the field position game super well. He's inside the 20 whenever he has the opportunity. Yeah, this is like the only opportunity he's going to get. Give Britton Colquitt my game ball.
Okay.
I know that's right. Put that on his wall.
All right, we'll go to Skol Scale here. We tweeted out that we need some Skol Scale responses for the show. We got actually quite a few back, so I'll read them off here.
Well, do yours first.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll read mine. Well, I'll say mine. It's 4. I don't know. Who cares? Who cares what mine is? It doesn't matter. They're gonna. I really feel like the Vikings are gonna win 8 games at home and 8 games on the road this year, and they're gonna finish, 3rd or 4th in the NFC North, and that's gonna be it. Because you can't. They don't. This team does not look like it's gonna win on the road anytime soon.
Yeah,
and so I'm picking the Giants to win this weekend. Like I'm telling you right now, until this team can show up, not at US Bank Stadium, I'm gonna pick the home team. So
I mean, I'm still at 5. I'm still at 5.5. I think.
I'll go 5 flat 5 because they're gonna go 8-8, 500. Like that's the perfect.
The thing is though is that I expected them to lose this game. Like I got what I expected out of this game. It just needs to be better moving forward, which I still feel like it can be. So that's why I'm at 5.5.
Yeah, we got what we expected. Okay. The first one here from Morocco at Skullbanger. Since number 8 is half as good as I thought, and maybe less, let's go with 3.5.
I mean, there's no defending Kirk Cousins after that game. The only thing is that he's not that bad. Like that game was the worst. Like that was the worst.
And so
he's better than that game. That's all I can say.
If you've been on Twitter a lot and then you've seen the numbers about how much time he has to throw, he's been given a very adequate, if not above average, amount of time to throw the ball. he's holding on to it enough to where these routes can definitely develop down the field. It's just he's checking it down extremely often. The problem that people had with Teddy was that he would check it down too often.
Yeah.
But like that was when, like Mike Wallace and Charles Johnson were the receivers.
Right.
And now you have 2 top 15 guys that are, excellent.
There's no excuse. Yeah.
Just throw them the ball. Okay, Donnie at DTE3. 1. ... Everything sucks.
Again, like, this is not a situation where the what's the meme on Twitter with the guy with the house that's burning down and he says everything's fine. Like that. Yeah. That's not that situation to me. Like I'm with him that everything sucks, but that's the game that I thought it was going to be. That was it. I thought the Vikings were going to lose.
This is different for us, I think, because this is the game that I thought was going to happen, right? I totally expect this to happen, but the game happened that way as a result of this team just not being good enough. Like, this team is just not good enough to win on the road. They're not good enough to make the playoffs. Like,
I don't feel that way.
That's my thought right now. Yeah. Like, 2 weeks ago I claimed the Packers are going to win the NFC North. I'm still of that belief right now. The Bears aren't very good, and they had no problem beating the Vikings.
Well, the Bears' defense is really good. That's the thing. Like, they are the Bears are built. The Bears are built to be the Vikings' kryptonite right now. Like, they are literally constructed in a way that makes it so the Vikings can't do anything that they do well. Like, the Bears are. This is like, it doesn't matter. Okay, this is my point. Is that the Bears don't necessarily need to be a top 15 team in the NFL, and they are, but they don't need to be the kryptonite for the Vikings, because they stonewall the running game, and Khalil Mack is literally like, if you created a player to destroy Kirk Cousins, it's Khalil Mack.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that their team is literally constructed in a way that makes it impossible for the Vikings. Like, it suffocates the way the Vikings play football. So, because of that, I mean, I saw this result. I watched the same game that you guys did, and I'm just as annoyed by the fact that Kirk couldn't do the same things that you are all talking about. But
are you okay right now? Yes or no? Are the Minnesota Vikings a playoff team?
Yeah, I think they are, but maybe like a 9-7 playoff team. Yeah, because this they were, when they lost to the Packers and when they lost to the Bears. Those are two games that if a couple things shake their way, they might have won.
I disagree with at least with
if that fumble early in the game,
at least with the Bears, the Bears game.
I mean, more with the Bears game, yes, but the Packers game, if Kirk Cousins completes a touchdown there instead of an interception, is that a reach? Maybe a bit. I don't know. But if that happens,
the OPI and everything, Cook.
If that happens, the Vikings can win that game. Yesterday, okay, I'll give it to you. The Bears flat out destroyed the Vikings. There is one thing though. If that fumble gets called and they could, theoretically, like you said, that game could have looked a lot different yesterday. But it doesn't really. That part's irrelevant. My point being here is that they're not that bad when they're losing to a team that's literally built to destroy their offense, and the defense only allowed 16 points, which I can live with. If you told me
that should be good enough to win.
So there's this thing at some casinos. I used to see it at Canterbury all the time when I was many years ago, and it was called Instant 18. It was for blackjack hands. So if you play blackjack, I don't know, some of you might, but if you play blackjack, you know that 21 is the winning number that you want to get. If you can't get to 21, you try to get to 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, etc. You try to have the highest total and beat the dealer, right? That's how you play blackjack. So Instant 18 would give you an 18 hand no matter what, which means that you're betting on the dealer to either bust or 17, and then you win. To me, 16 points is that Instant 18 for the Vikings. Like, the Vikings should, in theory, you should win that game if you allow 16 points. I mean, some teams you're not going to, and that's why they allow that bet. Like, that's why, like, that betting of it, that way to bet is available because people do lose on that all the time. But my point being here is that if you give me 16 points against the Bears yesterday, I would say the Vikings had a good shot to win.
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't happen. But my point is that the offense literally could not have played a worse game. They could still get better against other teams. They might not beat the Bears this year, but they're still better than what we saw yesterday. And the defense is still very, very good. So put that together. That tells me there's still like a 9-7 potential, 10-6 potential here.
Okay. Matt McCone says right now between a 5 and a 6. That's kind of what we said. AJC at Mr. Educational says a 3, but Kirk has some get-right games these next 2 weeks to open up the offense. He's talking about Giants, Eagles. All right, that's the next 2 games. At New York Giants, then home against Philly, which Philly's secondary, by the way, not great. This would kind of be your chance for Kirk to get his mojo back.
The thing is with Kirk is I don't think there's such thing as a get-right game for him. Like, I think this is just who he is. I just think that against defenses like the Bears, the Vikings are always going to have trouble when he is the quarterback.
Okay, well then he shouldn't have troubles against the Giants or the Eagles.
He shouldn't,
at all. He should have none.
And I agree with you, but my point is that I don't consider, like, to me, if he goes out and plays well against the Giants and then plays well against the Eagles, great. Vikings move to 4-2 in theory, right? I still think this is who Kirk Cousins is going to be. So when we get matched up, when let's say the Vikings flounder into the playoffs and find a way and are a wild card team and they go to Seattle.
Oh, yeah, no chance.
They're getting smoked because that's who Kirk Cousins is as a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
That's who he is. That's where I'm at. I don't think there's anything he can do to change it at this point. I think that's kind of just...
Yeah, well, that kind of leads into our next Skol Scale. Alex Johnson, at Alex P. Johnson, says 1 because Kirk Cousins is still the QB, which your optimism here is kind of like, if you are convinced that the Vikings won't win the Super Bowl, I can understand why it's a 1. Because, the season's over. It doesn't matter. And if your reasoning for that is Kirk, then there's your 1. Sam Newman, our guy, at Noom Sam N, says a 4. They were always going to lose at Soldier Field, but that display was concerning, which... Yeah,
that's literally how I feel. Like, that's... The way that they lost is more important than the actual loss here. I think in pretty much everyone's mind here, they are more concerned with the way that the Vikings lost. The fact that they could not throw the football at all is more important than the loss. The loss itself wasn't backbreaking. If the Vikings had lost that game 30-27 and Kirk was 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, completed most of his passes, did a nice job, kept him in it to the end, I would have said that going forward, I think there'd be more optimism despite losing. But like Sam said, the way they lost is definitely the problem here.
I'm just thinking through my own mind now. The last time the Vikings played actually well at Soldier Field, I think has to be Adrian Peterson's rookie season. That's the first game that comes to my mind. 2017, they definitely didn't play well.
I don't remember ever playing well.
That was the game the Case Keenum came in the second half and led a couple of fluky touchdown drives. And then 2015 was the game where the Vikings trailed the entire time before Sherrills returned a punt. And
I remember that one. Yeah.
I think Teddy led a game-winning drive with a touchdown to Diggs there. But they played bad 55 minutes of that game. And then before that, they hadn't won since the Adrian Peterson game, his rookie season there. So that's the last time they've played well at Soldier Field. It's been literally since I was 12 years old.
I mean, they never do. It's just that's how, again, that's why I don't understand the outrage now. You knew that the Vikings were terrible at Soldier Field. You knew that Khalil Mack was again created.
It was the hope that it would be something that I didn't expect. I expected the loss, and I didn't expect it to be pretty. But it was, like I said before the game on the show, this was the chance for Kirk to sort of break the mold or break the stereotypes of what people thought of him. It's a big audience. You had Nance and Romo on the call.
This is definitely that game.
A tough defense on the road, a tough team with a winning record. This is the game. This is his chance to, destroy all those those thoughts about him, those opinions of him, whatever. And he played exactly how everybody kind of thought he.
Right. So I guess ultimately the disappointment is in the fact that the Vikings probably aren't Super Bowl contenders because this is just who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. There's literally no reason for anyone to expect that he will play well on the road in a playoff game, which is what it looks like is what it's going to take for the Vikings to make that Super Bowl run if they even get to the playoffs. The only reason, the only way the Vikings could win a playoff game is if they get 2 defensive touchdowns or a return something like that, and the defense plays out of their minds.
Well, it's
which
good that Marcus
is possible.
Is back.
Yeah, and that's possible, but it's just not a sustainable model to win. So
I agree.
We'll end with some optimism here from Ryder Jensen at Ryder_47 says 6 bad loss. It's also okay to not be playing your best football in September. Season is young. Hopefully, this is a low point to bounce off of. So
I'm with that one too. Like that's because that's how I feel. You've played 4 games. You split those 4 games. You've played a pretty tough 4 games, with the exception to the Raiders, who honestly look like a pretty good team whenever they're not playing the Vikings.
They beat the Colts
for what
rather easily. So
for what it's worth. So, I mean, again, this is rock bottom. This is the and maybe this is what it took. That I think that's that right there. That's the point that you need to drive if you're trying to make someone feel optimistic.
Hey, the 2017 Vikings were 2-2.
I don't care about that at all. But
okay,
I'm just saying, like, it can't get worse than here. And if that's the worst against a very, very good defense, then okay, there's still a shot, and there's still 12 games left. And if people are ready to burn down the city, if they play against the Giants and they lose the Giants, and people are ready to burn down the city, I'll get it. That'll make sense to me. But I don't think it's time just yet because, again, this was an expectation. This is what you signed up for, and I agree. We all hoped it would be different, but it wasn't. And here we are. We got one question that was not a Skol Scale question or a Skol Scale response, but we got a question. I think either during the game or after the game Sunday from Lucas Reitgens at L Reitgens on Twitter. This is kind of makes you think. I'll say that it makes you think. But he says, imagine you're a GM. And you have to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 seasons. Otherwise, you'll be fired. So every GM's life, pretty much?
That's counting 2019. So you had to pick one team based on their current status, and you had to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 seasons. Vikings, Dolphins, or Redskins?
Not the Redskins, for sure. That's the last team I would ever pick, like 100%.
Mainly, that for me, that
comes down to
Dan Snyder.
Yeah, and also it's the Redskins. Like I think the real what this question is really asking is: would you rather be tanking for draft picks right now or have the team that the Vikings have? And I think right now, like coming off of that game, like if that is Kirk Cousins for sure, like that's the guy. I mean, we have 2 years left with Cousins. That would basically narrow it down to 3. With you still have an aging defense at that point. I mean, I think I would take the Vikings, but I wouldn't have a problem with someone taking Miami.
I think I'd take Miami
because
they have built up a crap ton of picks for like 2020, 2021.
Yeah, but
like
none
they
of
have
those very few of those draft picks will be
right, and they're not all going to hit.
No, but even then, like they won't be good enough to win in 5 years. I think the Vikings have a better chance in 5 years. But Miami probably has a better chance in 10 years.
But the Vikings defense as it is now, well, just the nucleus of players on both sides, age is going to become an issue in 2 years.
Right.
At the end of 2020,
but they will
you're going to
have a better chance in 5 years, I think, than Miami does.
Okay.
But
and that's
Miami,
fair.
in 10 years, if we're talking about the 10-year business plan, I'll take Miami because especially with Kirk Cousins, like the Vikings are going to end up being in the situation that Miami is in like 2 years if Kirk Cousins is if this is the best Kirk Cousins we're going to get against postseason caliber teams, we're going to be Miami in 2 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's about right.
Period.
But yeah, that's all I've got from Skol Scale plus any other Twitter sponsors for us. So
all right, well
that kind of concludes our Vikings talk, I guess. Which I'm glad to be done with it. Unless you had any other thoughts.
No, I don't. I was going to say let's finish off the last quarter of the show here with a bunch of good things that are happening in Minnesota.
I like that.
And so the Twins are in the postseason again. They ended up winning over 100 games. So of my checklist of my to-do list for the Twins last week, it was win 100 games, make the postseason,
and
win the home run record.
Yes,
they did all 3 of those. Strikeout right there, 3 in a row. Absolutely killed it. And now we're looking into the eye of what has been the end for, many years in the past. And I have been, since baseball was my life when I was growing up. I've never missed a Twins home playoff game since then. So literally, I'm very, very excited about this because I think this is the first true opportunity to break that Yankees curse that they've had since the Liriano Johan Santana year, and obviously that was decimated by Liriano going down with Tommy John right before the postseason. But I think this is the best team that they have to contend with the Yankees given the circumstances, right? So Twins win. Was 101 games. I think that's what they finished with. 101 games. 5 guys over 30 home runs. That's never been done before. They break the all-time home run record with 307 over the Yankees, who had 306. Indians end up not making the playoffs altogether, which is very important to point out because of how rude their fans got when they had 24 hours of being in first place. And they head into the postseason, about as good as they can possibly be here. And that leads you to the Yankees. Now, I guess before I carry on, what are your initial, how are you feeling heading into this series?
I'm trying not to get too optimistic about it because I just know what the end result was probably going to be, but the way both teams are structured, where that there's not a lot of pitching,
right,
that can be trusted, and there's a lot of hitting that can be trusted or can be, that you can expect to
you can count on
produce runs. So in that way, I think there will be a lot of volatility, and that could result in some really weird baseball games that could be kind of 50-50, and the Twins might just get lucky enough times to win a series. That's my thought process. Ultimately, I think the Yankees will win in probably 4 games. Twins might get one at home or something, but I think there's enough volatility to where weird things can happen and the Twins could steal the series.
Okay, so since we will not end up talking about the Twins before the next game that they play, let's do this. Let's do one reason to believe that the Twins will prevail in this series. Remember, it's a 5-game series only. That's how the first round works in the MLB. 5-game series against the Yankees. One reason that they'll prevail, and one reason that they won't. So,
I mean, the easy way to look at this is just what the Twins are good at and what the Twins are bad at.
Right.
Twins are bad. You can't trust their starting pitching right now. Or
you could say the same thing about the Yankees for the most part.
Yeah, I know. But I think that's just what I'm going to go with is Twins pitching against the Yankees lineup is going to be why they won't win the series. And then on the flip side, if they win, it's going to be because their Bomba hitters deliver the Bombas.
Yep.
When it matters. So, that's kind of where I'm at. And you could just say on the flip side that maybe the Twins hitting doesn't live up to the expectations that they kind of built for themselves in the regular season, but there's just so much firepower there that I can't imagine it would take a wild stroke of bad luck for all of 6-7 of those power hitters to just not show up in the playoffs.
Yeah. The big thing about the Yankees is that they do have their optimal lineup in at this point. Giancarlo Stanton is back. I imagine if he were there for the whole season that the Yankees probably would have the home run record. Obviously, Aaron Judge is in there. Edwin Encarnacion is still there. They have guys playing out of their mind. Like DJ LeMahieu has never been the hitter that he is today in New York. He came out of absolutely nowhere to be a borderline MVP type player. Luke Voigt has played, in my opinion, much higher than his pay grade. So you've got this collection of you could throw everyone in there. Their home run leader is Gleyber Torres, and then Didi Gregorius is no slouch either. So they can hit the ball. And honestly, you look at their lineup, you look at the Twins lineup, you probably trust the Yankees lineup to perform more than you would the Twins. An outside fan that hasn't watched a single Twins game this entire year looks at the Twins lineup, looks at the Yankees lineup, they would say the Yankees are going to win this series. And then you look at the pitching rotation. James Paxton has been up and down. Luis Severino's just coming back now. Tanaka's been up and down. J.A. Happ is having one of the worst years of his career. Domingo Germán is gone now because of the domestic violence allegations. And CeCe Sabathia isn't the same guy he used to be. So you compare that to the Twins, so it's going to be Barrios and Odorizzi up top. Then you're going to – I trust Barrios and Odorizzi over Paxton and Severino. And I can't say that for many teams. So, in my opinion, if you're going to face any team in the postseason, this is the team that the Twins can hypothetically beat because they can match arms with the Yankees. They can't say that for literally anyone else. Mm-hmm. That's the situation. I think the Twins can contend with the Yankees because they can match arms with them. That's ultimately what this is going to come down to. Because I do think the Yankees have a better lineup. I think the Twins can certainly hit home runs and contend with them, but the Yankees are the better hitting team. But I think the Twins' edge is the fact that their bullpen has gotten pretty good, and I think, in my opinion, with the exception of Aroldis Chapman, who's the best overall bullpen player that's going to be in this series, the Twins probably have a better bullpen too.
What do you think in terms of Rocco versus Boone?
That's a toss-up. That's a toss-up to me too, because I don't think either of them are exceptionally good managers. I think they're great clubhouse guys that keep everyone in line and do a good job, quote, managing human beings. I don't think they're great schematics guys, where they know which arm to bring in or whatever. I don't think either of them are particularly adept in that regard. There have been multiple times where I've questioned Rocco throughout the season. Ultimately, it's worked out, and I don't particularly care. But head to head here, I don't think there's an advantage one way or another between those two managers. So, what this comes down to me, and this is the easy narrative, and I'm sure a lot of other people are saying this. People that are a lot smarter than me and cover baseball a lot harder than I do. But this is just going to come down to who hits more home runs, really, because both these teams they're going to hit home runs. The pitching in this series is not good enough across the board to contend with either of these lineups. It's just going to be a matter. It's going to be 10-7 games. Whoever can get the late field goal is basically this is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
The one edge I think that the Twins do have is that they're really good playing on the road. Yankees can't say the same thing. And the biggest thing about the Yankee home field advantage is that it gives them the opportunity to hit more home runs. Obviously, right? That's just how Yankee Stadium has always been. And it's always worked well for them. Well, the Twins can definitely contend with them in that regard because of the lefties in their lineup. Max Kepler eats that left field or that right field pole for breakfast. That's 323 feet down the right field?
Not very far.
That porch is it's made for Max Kepler. So
it's not quite Fenway, but it's close.
Yeah, it's lower to the ground too. Or I guess you're probably talking about right field and Fenway. But point being here is the dimensions of Yankee Stadium do not favor the Yankee style of power, whereas the Twins can power it out of just about anywhere. And so I think Twins have a very real home field advantage in this series because I think the Twins can play on the road better than the Yankees can play on the road. Which ultimately, you said you think Yankees in 4. I think it's going to be Twins in 5. I think this is going to be and the reason why I say 5 is because I think the Yankees are going to get theirs. But I don't think ultimately what it comes down to when we get to if the Twins get to Game 5 and it's Barrios or Odorizzi versus Paxton or Severino, pick your poison. I would assume that it's probably Paxton versus Odorizzi. I'll take Odorizzi in one game because I think I trust the Twins lineup to be very, very good for one game. The question mark has always been the starting pitching, and the Yankees have to be thinking the exact same thing. They're in the same position that the Twins are. All Yankees fans are looking at the starting pitching and be like, "Oh, how are we going to contend with the Astros?" Well, that's kind of how we feel right now too, and I kind of I like the Twins 1-2 punch a little better simply because Severino's coming off of injury and he might not. We haven't seen the sample size hasn't been great enough to see if he's truly back to who he is. That's their best pitcher. I think the Twins can easily handle Paxton or Tanaka. Happ has been an absolute disaster. He's like the equivalent of their Martin Perez. So this is, this Yankees team, if you can hold them down a little bit. So I'm talking 10-7. That's the type of game that we might get here. And
a lot of games like that. I think every single one might be like that, where there's
I like the
18,
Twins,
19 combined runs.
I like the Twins' chances in 5 games against them. In 3 games, maybe not. But in 5, I think the Twins have better depth. Somehow, the Twins I think they have better pitching depth, somehow. And that, to me, is going to be the difference in this series. So, to me, the reason why the Twins win is simply, like you said, they out-hit the Yankees. And why they lose, I mean, there are a couple of big things, but the glaring issue to me is, after your two starting pitchers, your main guys, Barrios and Odorizzi, you got to get at least one more good start. I don't know who's going to give it to you, right? That's the one major question mark that I have here. But if you get two good starts out of Odorizzi and Barrios, I trust the Twins to win those games. If Barrios walks out of Yankee Stadium with having only allowed 3 runs, I think the Twins probably win that game. That's how I feel about this series. So,
okay.
3 runs from Odo, 3 from Barrios. I think the Twins can win both those games. And then it ultimately just comes down to, who can
Gotta
hit
get one more.
Yeah. And is that Dobnak? I don't know. I don't trust anyone, but I trust the Yankees guys even less because I haven't seen them play that much. Period. That's what it is. I don't trust the back end of the Twins rotation. I definitely don't trust the back end of the Yankees rotation. So whoever can hit more home runs, that's who's going to win the series. Every headline's going to say that, but I mean that's just what it is, right? Like I don't think there is a cute narrative here. It's just these are two teams that are coming in. The Twins hit 270 as a team this season. The Yankees hit like 266. Twins hit 307 home runs. Yankees 306. It's who is truly the better hitting team. That's who's going to win the series because there's no one here that's going to hold them down. No pitcher, Yankee or Twin, that's going to hold down either of these lineups. So whoever hits more home runs, that's going to be the winner. That's the statistic that you could point to. Whoever hits more home runs, that's going to win this series. Period. That's how I feel. So.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of explained the entire series in a nutshell right there.
I mean, that's basically what it is. Like there isn't like a cute there isn't like. I don't think there's too much to articulate with this series. Like if the Twins don't hit,
okay, are you concerned about? Okay, is Kepler's gonna be back, right?
Kepler should be back. Yeah, that's the expectation.
Arise, I don't know what his status is.
I'm pretty sure he's done.
You sure he's done?
Yeah.
So then, what do you think? Hypothetically, if you're Baldelli, you're putting together a lineup for Game 1. What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. So then. First base is tough because to me it's going to be Cron or Gonzalez, but I don't know how you start Cron right now. So you'd have to be Gonzalez at first, Schoop at second, Polanco at short, third would be Sano, and then the outfield would be it's tricky. Rosario in left, Kepler in right, and then
Cave.
It's either Wade or Cave, whichever one you like more, I suppose.
It's got to be Cave, right?
I think that Wade gives you a better professional at bat, but I think that Cave is the better hitter. So then it comes down to who's the better fielder, and I think they're both equally fast. Their range is those are the two guys on the team who have the best range. So it puts you in a tough position. I think I'd probably have to take Cave just because he has more experience. I think that would make more sense to me. But, that's the lineup. And then I would obviously Odorizzi or Barrios for the two guys at the top. Whoever they decide to go with, I don't really care. It's just one of those two guys is going to have to go. And then obviously Cruz at DH. So I think the Arise thing hurts a little bit, but maybe in this series it's not the worst thing because of the field dimensions. Schoop becomes a lot better hitter when he's hitting in NL East or AL East parks. That's literally why he got this contract from the Twins, is because he was really, really good at hitting for the Orioles, home runs that is. So I don't think that hurts. It sucks to not have Arise in there. He's clearly a much better fielder, but in terms of, and he's obviously going to give you a much better at bat. But I think that in terms of runs created in this type of series, I think Schoop isn't like the biggest drop off in the world. So I'm not super. I don't have much of an issue with that.
Okay. All right.
So that I believe that about concludes Twins talk. Do you have any final thoughts for the series?
No, I mean, I'm obviously scared of just the history against the Yankees in general. But it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna, for this weekend, I'm gonna go downtown, find a bar, watch the games, and at the very least, I'm going to enjoy it because, again, many of the listeners know, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but when the Twins are good, and when they have a chance to beat the Yankees in the playoffs, I will be watching and rooting.
Absolutely. It makes the summer that much better. So
yes.
All right, well, I think that's probably a good place to put a cap on it here. Thanks as always for listening to the show. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube if you like watching us talk more than you like listening to us talk. You can find us on Twitter at unbelievable_MN. Send us funny stuff or respond to our posts or don't do any of that at all. It doesn't matter. Either way, works well for us. I think that's it. Yeah, we'll be talking about the Giants the next episode. And talking about how the ways the Vikings can get back on track as they continue their road trip. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit more, happiness, a little more optimism to find by Thursday or Wednesday.
I won't guarantee anything.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you later on this week.